Hi, I'm Greg Scott, and welcome to Step 3 of how to build a VPN in 4 easy steps without spending a penny. In Step 1, we built the base platform, and we built a Red Hat Fedora virtual machine. You could build a physical machine, but I used a virtual machine, and Step 1 showed all the details about how to do that. In Step 2, we set up the digital certificates and key files and stuff like that so that we could authenticate. By now, we have a certificate authority and we have server certificates so that the server trusts itself. But more importantly, when we build clients in Step 4, the clients will trust the server because the server has certificates signed by itself. And we talked about self-signed certificates before and why they make sense in this instance and only this instance. Here in Step 3, we're going to set up the server configuration. And so let's get off of my talking head and let's go right to the screen. Here we are. Let's minimize that. And we have a few tasks we need to do. We need to put together the configuration file, and I'll show you how to do that. We need to set our OpenVPN server up as a router, and I'll show you the steps to do that. It needs to be a router because packets will come in, and it needs to send those to the correct server inside the company network. We need to set up appropriate ownership for the configuration files inside our server because we're going to run the OpenVPN daemon as user OpenVPN, not as root. That's a security thing. That's a security thing so that we don't give this thing more privileges than it needs. If somebody finds a bug with OpenVPN and gets inside that process, if it were root, they could own this whole system. But it's not root, so they can only break that one process. And then we're going to set the startup so that when this system boots, it starts up the OpenVPN server daemon. And I have some things to say about the firewall. So let's get into it. The configuration file, you have a choice here. You can build your own configuration file from scratch, and here is the directory: user share doc OpenVPN sample config files. That comes with OpenVPN, and it's installed on our server. And these are a whole bunch of sample files that you can use as a starting point. You can do that by hand if you want to, but I think I can save you a whole bunch of time and aggravation because I've done a lot of that work already, and I package it up for you. So let's use my semi-automated method instead, and we'll go through that. So first thing you do is this command, right? Log in as root on your OpenVPN server, and then issue these commands. So let me just copy and paste this. And what we're going to do is we're going to grab a copy of a script that sits on my website. We're going to download that script from my website to your OpenVPN server logged in as root. I'll do that and make it executable. Now, this is dangerous to do that kind of stuff because when you download a script from somebody's website and just run it, trust me. Well, the next thing I want you to do is familiarize yourself with that script. So let's just take a look at it here. cat OVP, there we go. And you can see what it does. And what it does, I should put some comments in here too, and I think I will in a future version. But for right now, what it does, it sets up the directories on our OpenVPN server that we're going to need. And I've got some custom scripts I'm going to show you too. Then it copies the files from my website to the directories we just set up, and that's what these commands do. And then we automate making the system into a router. That's what this does. So at next boot time, this system will in fact be a router. And then we copy the custom scripts where they need to go. That's what these commands do. And then we make the custom scripts executable, and that's what these do. And the last thing we do, now that we've copied all these files, is we set the ownership of all of them to OpenVPN right here. Remember what I said about the OpenVPN process. So we familiarize ourselves with that file, and we like what it does, and so let's run it. And let's just use my standard method here to copy from the documentation and paste it in, and boom, and let's run it. And that put everything where it's supposed to go. Now let me show you. On the website, I did this on a test system, and it put everything where it needs to be. But let's Let's just see what, let me just show you what it did on our test server. So here is the output, and here is, well, here, ls minus al minus r slash etc slash open VPN. And there's all the stuff. And I'll bring this up and pause it for a second. So if you want to pause the video, you can. Notice the ownership is OpenVPN for everything. Notice that. And that's cool. Pause. And okay, now you can for pausing the video if you want to. And then let's look at the sysctl file that we put in. Let's do that. Let's do that. Let's do that. And so that's in place, and we should be good to go. We should be good to go. So now our next step is to set that sysctl up so that we turn on IP forwarding. Well, we already did that. Our next step after that is set the file ownership. We already did that. See what time and aggravation I saved you by automating this. Now our next step is to modify it. And so what I want to do first is I want to look at the configuration, and I want to go here, and let's edit this thing. Nano OVPN server 2020.conf, because when we did our certificates, when we did our certificates, cd /pki. Oh, wait, CD PKI, sorry. When we did our certificates, demo OVPN demo.crt, see this file right here? That was the certificate we made. And so what we need to do is we need to make sure I can, CD ... Where are we? There, we need to make sure that our server configuration matches what the certificate says. And so let's copy OV server 2020.conf to ovpn demo.conf, and let's edit that. Nano ovpn demo.conf. Let's edit that guy, and let's make sure we're pointing it to the correct certificates, and which we're not. See that? That should be ovpn demo.crt, and that should be ovpn demo.key. And I'll show you a couple other things while we're in here. So we did that, and let's make sure on our routing, let's make sure we got that right. That's down here. This is important, and you'll need to modify this to fit your own network when the time comes. My internal network is just a small /24 10.10.10.0 through 10.10.10.255. So I need the Open VPN network is 10.8.0.0/24. I need a way to get from my Open VPN server into the rest of my network, and that's what this route does. If your network has a bunch of different subnets, you'll do pushes like this for all the different routes. My gateway, whoops, that's the IP address of my Open VPN server. By the way, I made an improvement. Hopefully this putty window is easier to read. My Open VPN server is 10.8.0.1, and so from there, that's the gateway to get to the rest of the world. My client needs to know that, so we push that route down to my client when we set this up. I need a DNS server, so my DNS server is at 10.10.10.10. If I lose connection for 30 seconds, try it again. If I lose, and then these other parameters here are also important. Now the other thing you're going to need to change, and I've already done, is up here, the right here, the PKI stuff. And I did that on the screen. OVPN demo. Make sure that make sure your configuration file points to the correct certificate and the correct key file for whatever you name your OpenVPN server. That's important. Now this is some custom scripting I put in just for you. When a client connects to this server, I will log that the client, I'll log the date and time that the client connected and a few variables about it. And when the client disconnects, we'll log the date and time when it disconnects, and we'll keep 5 copies of each client connect and disconnect. That way, you've got some audit information if you need it for when your users out there connect into your server. One other thing I want to show you in here, I showed you this group user open VPN, group open VPN. That's so the daemon runs not as root, so that it not as bad of a security hassle. Tunnel MTU 3060, MTU maximum transmission unit. It's the buffer size. Make sure you have a corresponding entry in your client, and then there's a compression thing I'm going to find for you too, and I believe that's down here somewhere. Let's just find it. LZO. Here it is right here. Make sure, underneath other stuff, make sure your client configuration has the same compression as your server configuration. If you don't, they won't be able to talk to each other. You're probably wondering how I know that. Well, let's just say I learned the hard way. And then we mute after 20 messages, and if we exit, we explicitly notify. So this looks good. Let's save it. And let's set up our startup. So here's how we do it, and you can see it right here in the website. We're going to have a different configuration file name. So let's do system ctl start OpenVPN pn. Oh, this is why we copy and paste. We're going to do this, we're going to do that, copy and paste, and then we're going to just edit right here. OVPN demo.service. And bing, bang, boom, it works. Let's set it to start at startup. ENABLE. Ta-da! Now at next boot, this OpenVPN server will in fact run the process that it needs. Finally, you need some firewall settings at your company firewall to make clients to allow clients to connect to your OpenVPN server. Here are some settings I put together for your for a Linux-based IP tables firewall. The bottom line of it is you're going to need one public IP address so that the world can find you. And you put your OpenVPN server behind your firewall, and then NAT, N-A-T, Network Address Translation, NAT, UDP port 1194 from the public IP address that you're advertising to the private IP address of your OpenVPN server. Set your firewall up that way, and you should be good to go. Here's some suggested settings for how to do that with an IP tables based firewall. You'll use this as a guide to do your own firewall. And there we are. And let's go to our screen. That should do it for step 3. Thanks for putting up with me. In step 4, we're gonna do clients, and we're gonna actually make a connection into a VPN. So I'll see you at step 4.